Welcome back, everyone. We're here with another episode of Casing the Joint here at the Boyertown Museum of Historic Vehicles. I'm Kendra.
And I'm Dan.
And we just want to take this opportunity that we have here on Casing the Joint to talk a little bit about some of these smaller things in our museum that are on exhibit, typically in a case. And actually, right now we're standing in the exit hallway, our unofficial name for it.
Or it could be entrance hallway if you're going backwards.
It could be. Sometimes I feel like I'm going backwards. So depending on your mood that day.
Well, it's neither because we're just standing here now.
We're just standing. We're not exiting or entering because we're going to hang out and talk about that little thing right there. But before I do that, just, we're basically kind of beyond the diner, like at the end of the building. So sometimes visitors miss this little area of the museum, and really make sure that you get down here and walk through this hallway because it's lined with cases, and on the other side of this wall is a wall of like advertisements. So make sure you get through here because there's some really neat stuff back here, including this little gem today. So this is a lens from a traffic light. This is green, the green one. Green means go. And you can see it has the Firestone tire emblem on the lens itself. And the little plaque that it's mounted on says Firestone Drive. So this was off the traffic light that led into the Firestone Plant. So that was Firestone.
Okay.
Actually, when I was researching, it was called Firestone Boulevard, but we'll get to that in a minute. So this was in Pottstown, there at the entrance to the Firestone Plant in Pottstown, close by to us. And let's just talk a little bit about the Firestone Plant in Pottstown. It was one of Pottstown's largest employers for almost 35 years. In the mid-1900s. So, where was the plant? Well, it was in a building that was originally occupied by Jacobs Aircraft Engine.
Wow.
Ooh.
Connection.
So, yeah, we have dabbled around the Jacobs Aircraft Engine history a couple times here at the museum on our various programs. So, you can learn more about them on another episode of Motor Mouth, which we can put in the description of this episode, a link to that. But you're going to see on your screen there, this is like a Google map today of this area. So it's right off, it's right next to what on the map is referred to as Benjamin Franklin Highway or Pottstown Expressway, which we call 422. You'll see the Schuylkill River there kind of makes like an S, and in the one loop circle of the S is the Saratoga County Preserve. That other one, though, is it looks empty on this map. That is where Firestone was and Jacobs Aircraft Engine, and it is still. The building is there today. It's other stuff. It's other stuff. But anyway, like I said, the plant was originally occupied by Jacobs Aircraft Engine. And it was, they were making engines there for military planes in World War II. However, I don't know if anything was built in that specific, for Jacobs. I don't know if anything was built there too much. The building was intended to assemble engines for military planes in World War II. However, the war drew to a close about a year after the plant was built. So I think they had another location in Pottstown, and this was like a secondary one, I guess, to handle the volume of work they were doing, and then the war ended. Firestone rented it in 1945 to make military tires. Firestone then purchased the plant in 1950 to make commercial tires. So, tires for the public as opposed to the military. Now, not this particular plant in Pottstown because it wasn't operating at the time, but Firestone did get Army Navy E awards for its work during World War II. Of course, making tires, but they also made life vests. They made flotation gear. They made tracks for half tracks and tanks. And they also made things I really would not have expected Firestone to make, like artillery shells, raincoats, eye guards for gun sights, Bakelite stocks for automatic. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on.
I know they made like dirigibles too.
That's a fun word.
Huh?
That's a fun word,
Yeah.
dirigible.
But they did that
Yeah.
in Willow Grove down near Philly,
Okay.
where there's a military
There's a base down there.
base there of some sort. Yeah, it was right there. They made it. So
They
okay.
made
Anyway,
a lot of stuff. I was surprised at how much they made during World War II. That was not in the Pottstown plant specifically because it wasn't operating at that
Right.
point, but Firestone in general, which of course Firestone is out of Akron, Ohio originally, but they had plants
everywhere.
everywhere,
Pottstown.
including
Willow Grove.
Pottstown. So there is a photo there of the Firestone plant. Now that's from, I believe, the Pottstown Historical Society, and they have that dated as the 40s. If you drive through, this is not the plant, this is kind of like the front office area, so to speak. If you drive through Pottstown today off High Street, Firestone still has a, what do you call it, like a service station. You can get your car inspected there and tires and stuff. And this is, it really looks like that still.
They do?
On High Street by the hospital.
Okay, I was thinking like where the McDonald's is
Yes,
in there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It looks
I'm
pretty much
picking
the
up what
same.
you're putting down.
I think you had to drive. You would have had to drive back quite a
Yeah.
bit to
Yeah.
get to the actual
Yep.
plant. So this is a 1955 Firestone newsletter. So this is essentially like a company publication that gets put out, and they have this article about the Pottstown plant, which is pretty cool. So this is not too long after they bought the facility. They're not leasing it anymore. They bought it. And you can see an aerial shot there of the plant. And there's another aerial shot you're going to see too, where you can see the bridge over the Schuylkill in the background, which I think is a really a cool photo. Helps you to place it because that bridge, you can see where it is now and kind of envision how this plant looked. But anyway, so here's some quotes from this 55 article in the Firestone News. It's from the company. Increased demand for steam to supply the needs of the resin plant and additional tire curing machines led to a $1 million expansion of the power plant in 1953. This is at Pottstown. So the new steam generator uses either oil or pulverized soft coal and has a rated capacity of 100,000 pounds of steam per hour. The Pottstown tire plant produces tires and tubes for passenger cars, trucks, and buses, and various kinds of and sizes of tires and tubes for all industrial purposes. The Firestone plant uses as much water as an entire city of 30,000 inhabitants, which double a community about 1.5 times the size of the borough of Pottstown. So they're using more water at that plant than
Pottstown
than the town was. The water for the plant is obtained from wells on the property and from the river. That's why you want to be right next to the Schuylkill. You want to be right next to that river. This is really cool. Now they talk a little bit about like the social life of the Firestone employees. The many activities of the Pottstown plant include such organizations for the employees as 2 men's and a women's bowling league, a softball league of 8 teams, and a Firestone male chorus composed of 25 voices. Added to these are the Firestone gardening program and the Red Cross blood donor program. The plant sponsors a Cub Pack, 2 Boy Scout troops, and an Explorer unit. Roger Firestone is president of the Valley Forge Council Boy Scouts of America.
Did you say how many employees they had? Or does it say that?
I think I did read that somewhere, though I didn't write it down. But they were one of Pottstown's largest employers.
Because I'm thinking, with all these, how many teams did they have in the league?
Yeah, really, eight was it?
Yeah,
8 teams. So think of that, 8.
Yeah, and it's not like everybody was playing.
Well,
it was
sure,
only
but still,
a few people.
You had enough to have a league.
Yeah.
Within your complex. And then they also mention, just as a little throwaway line in there, that's close to the Hill School, very famous in Pottstown, which was attended by Leonard and Raymond Firestone. The Hill School.
You said Raymond, and
Leonard
you gave a
and
quote.
Raymond.
You said the gentleman who was in charge of the Valley Forge Regional Boy Scout
Yes,
or something?
it was Roger Firestone.
Oh, Roger. I thought that was Raymond also.
And then there's a photo here in the article, and we'll throw that up there. Roger Firestone, and he's the gentleman on the right, president of the plastics company and general manager of the tire plant. And they're just kind of observing, some of the processes that are going on there. And they had a couple photos in there. We'll throw them up because they're really neat photos. There's one of the factory line and, some employees there. I like the sign that's hanging from the ceiling. Remember, the next inspector is the customer.
There you go.
You don't want to mess around when you're making tires.
No.
No. Then there's a worker there, Joseph Scrocky. I hope I'm saying Joseph's name right. Curing tires. And it says in here, okay, so this is 1955. That caption for that says, since the Pottstown plant has been in operation, nearly 36 million tires have been made. It's only been not even 10 years that it's making these tires.
A lot of tires.
That's a lot of tires. And then I like it too. They have a little downtown view of Pottstown, High Street looking east. I don't know why. I just like that they put in a little photo of the town and just what is going on there. And then I found this later too. There's a postcard from about this time period of the front of the building, which looks really plain and kind of blah. It's not nearly as cool as the it almost looks like a showroom building with all the glass and the cool sign out on High Street. But I guess you're not going to really see this readily from the road too much. High Street.
There's no
defining
landscape.
anything.
Yeah,
No.
it's just the building.
Yeah.
Blah is an excellent
Blah
word.
is, it's blah. So they were at that location for some time in 1971, along with other Pottstown businesses. Bethlehem Steel and Dana gave money towards building the hospital. That's right there, which I thought was interesting. So the Firestone plant closed in 1980, and it was sold to Occidental Chemical, which is still around. And they renamed Firestone Boulevard to Arm & Hammer Boulevard.
Who was
Occidental
owner.
Chemicals chairperson.
Okay.
Yes. So what is Arm & Hammer Boulevard now used to be Firestone Boulevard.
Okay.
And you would have back then seen a traffic light with these Firestone logoed lenses on them, which are pretty cool. From the Washington Post, a Washington Post article, March 20th, 1980. This is about the layoffs, essentially. So this was the year that the plant closed. Firestone Tire and Rubber Company said yesterday it will close 6 of its U.S. plants by the end of October, eliminating the jobs of 7,000 current employees and another 1,500 workers who were laid off previously in a major cutback of the company's passenger tire manufacturing capacity. So that's 8,500 total layoffs across 6 plants. Now, that might not have been its heyday, obviously, if they're closing it. Maybe it had more before then. But anyway, most of the plants produce bias ply tires, once commonly used on passenger cars, but are now being rapidly eclipsed by radial tires.
Right, okay.
Which provide better gasoline mileage and longer wear because of better construction. So I'm gathering from that Pottstown was, maybe they couldn't, modernize or update their equipment cost efficiently enough to make these radial tires then. Other plants that were announced, so the Pottstown was announced in this article as one of the plants closing. The other ones were in Dayton, Barberton, and Akron, Ohio. Surprised me that they closed one in their hometown. And Los Angeles and Salinas, California. So that is a brief history of Firestone and a piece of Pottstown history that I think is pretty cool. And it's, like I said, in a case here with some other Firestone items, which are not Pottstown specific, but this one is. So I think that's a neat little thing to point out. So there you go. Next time you're driving down Arm & Hammer Boulevard, remember that used to be Firestone.
Yeah. In other words, just don't think about baking soda.
Yeah. I know, right? When I was a kid, that's all I thought about.
Yeah.
I thought that was like the craziest thing as a kid. Why is it named after baking soda? It's not. Now you know. Now you've learned.
Could have been the other way around, actually.
Could have been, actually. You had no idea Pottstown was so prolific.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. And we hope you'll come here and check out all the cool stuff in our cases throughout the museum. And until then, we will see you next time on Casing the Joint. Thank you.